Just Me, a place to be me, where you get to experience life. 'Cause life is a journey, not a guided tour. If you want the rainbow, you have to go through the rain.
Thank you guys so much for coming back and welcoming back to us, the Just Me podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today as we begin our new series with Back to School. And I would love to introduce to you the Superintendent of Terrell County Schools in Northeastern North Carolina, Dr. Karen Roseboro. Her expertise lies in family and community engagement as well as school transformation. And so what we're going to do is just dive right in. We're going to begin by asking Dr. Roseboro some questions just regarding school engagement and how we get our young people back into that mindset, coming off a summer break and getting back into that mindset of school and school readiness and school engagement. So, Dr. Roseboro, can you tell us a little bit about the importance of helping your child go from one environment to another as we go back into the school year?
Mm-hmm. So, I was saying previously that, it's important for families to have those tools to help their children get ready for school. And part of getting ready for school is really starting to have some conversations with students about their feelings and processing their feelings about going back to school. Because I think that many times our parents may not always know that anytime there's a transition, there's some level of anxiety, whether it be positive anxiety or it could be negative anxiety. They're excited about going back to school, but at the same time, it's a change. So they're going into a new classroom. They're not quite sure if they're going to have the same friends that they had previously, the grade level before in the class, or they may look at their class schedules if they're in high school and they may notice that they have one of the teachers that have been known to be very rigorous. All of those things can cause some anxiety for students, but in our technological age that we live in, our parents have lost that connection with students, and they often feel like kids are not listening to them. So why even bother having a deep conversation about how you're feeling about going back to school? And they take that one word response from their child. So if you were to ask your child, are you ready to go back to school? Are you excited to go back to school? And the child responds, yes. Okay, yes, I'm fine. Yes. The one word response. Well, I would like to encourage families that part of social and emotional learning is to not accept the one word responses, because it's important for kids to learn how to converse with other people. And it first starts in the home by providing details. So what exactly are you excited about in the upcoming school year? Or what exactly are you fearful about or concerned about for the upcoming school year? Well, they can't give you a one word answer on that. They may say, well, I'm concerned about so-and-so, having so-and-so as a teacher.
Absolutely.
Tell me more. As a parent, you can say, well, tell me more about that. Did you hear about this teacher? Did you have an experience with the teacher? And it gives the parent more insight to what exactly the child is feeling as they prepare for school, but it allows the parent to be able to share their experiences of when they were in school. And that creates interconnectedness between a child and a parent. And I don't think that, parents have, that they have to have all these skill sets or be very knowledgeable in mental health or social and emotional learning. To me, these things are just common practices of being a good parent and listening, because there's no roadmap for parenting.
No. And every child is different.
And every child is different. And you may have that introverted child. You may have an extroverted child. I have an extroverted child that, he's going to tell me everything under the sun about what's happening, but he's a boy, and he's going to tell me a whole lot in 3 words, so I've got to listen intensely to what he's saying. But you may have that introverted child who's trying to get the words together in their minds about, okay, well, how do I want to articulate this to my mom or my dad or my grandparent or my mentor, where I can really express how I truly feel.
And
And those students have that struggle.
And I like the way you put that, Dr. Roseboro, because sometimes we do, as adults, take those one-word answers just because we have so much going on in our own lives, and on top of the parenting. And sometimes we take those one-word answers for face value because we're just going through the motions. But really, asking those follow-up questions helps your child in their future relationships, when they are in their own intimate relationships, when they are in their own peer relationships, with really how to be assertive with their communication and really communicate to other people how they're feeling, in healthier ways, especially at jobs, especially when you're in a romantic relationship. So the practicing starts now, as they are younger, in order to figure out how to do it when they're adults. But I have a question for you, about something that, like, maybe for the little biddies as they go into kindergarten, the first grades, the second grade, the third grades. We don't hear too much about parent separation anxiety. Tell me what you've seen as that relates to going back to school.
Well, I think that we have helped with parent separation anxiety in the school system, and a lot of people may not know this, but in many of our schools, and sometimes parents feel like it's something wrong with us saying, especially with the kindergartner, I need you to drop them off in the cafeteria, and then I need you to exit immediately. That is our way of helping the parent and supporting the child through parent separation. We usually, a lot of schools do a lot of meet and greets ahead of time of the first day, just so the child can see the teacher and the parent and interacting, but also making sure that the child can socially adapt to a situation. It gives the educator the opportunity to see how a child is going to deal with the stressful situation of the first day of school. So for the first 10, some schools within the first 2 days, they will allow the parent to walk the child to the classroom. But most schools have stopped that practice altogether. They have told families, you may come into the building, but you must stop in the foyer and then allow your child. There will be someone there to receive your child and take your child to the classroom. So I personally feel that we have done a good job. A lot of people feel that we're being cold-hearted, but it is our way of dealing with that separation anxiety from the parent or extended family member that our kids need, and also encouraging the child and having a conversation leading up to the school that they're in a safe place and speaking very positively about their experience that they're going to have on day one. You're going to have a great time. You're going to make friends. You're going to go out to recess. They're going to find out all the wonderful things that you like to do and what we do as a family, that it's going to be a great day or week for learning about who you are. You'll be able to teach your teacher as well as your classmates about who you are as a person. So I think it's all in the delivery, in how the student will actually experience the day.
And I think you make a good point about the delivery, because like we said, no two children are the same. And it may take one child 10 days, it may take another child 20 days or a month, and it may take another child 2 days to be like, okay, bye, grandma, bye, auntie, love
Right.
you, see you when you come pick me up. And it may take another child a couple of times where they might be crying, and it may feel like, from a parent's perspective, where it's just the hardest thing, and it's, pulling out at your heartstrings. But at the same time, you're also doing that child a service by having that positive conversation before you leave and saying, hey, listen, mommy, daddy, auntie, grandma's going to be back for you, in a few hours. Enjoy yourself. Because I've seen a lot of hard transitions as our younger kids go to summer camp programs, and parents have said, you know what, this is just too much. I'm going to take my child out of the summer camp program. But in the long run, you're doing your child a disservice, because now you're not teaching them how to adjust in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm. And I also would advise families, especially families that the students are car riders,
Mm.
that it is imperative, especially during the first week, that you are on time to pick up your child, especially students that are in pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade. That can add to their anxiety if the parent is late picking them up. And I think sometimes we're not always, aware that that is a level of anxiety for children of feeling left and abandoned. And we need to be more aware of that, as parents, that it's important to be on time for the first week of school. I have had parents that say, well, I took off 3 days to make sure my child got adjusted, and there are a lot of employers too who will respect the fact that you want to get off for 3 or 4 days, just an hour early, to get your child in the routine of being in the car rider line and waiting for the parent to pick them up. So I have seen many meltdowns over parents being late to pick their children up from school, or late from being on the bus stop to greet the child when they get off the bus. That can cause major traumatic issues for students if there's not a parent at the bus stop. So if you have a pre-K or a kindergartner, you're required by law to have an adult there to greet the child when they get off the bus. And that's for safety reasons as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for pointing that out, because yes, in addition to the safety reasons, it also helps with children just adjusting to that transition of, all right, this is summer mode, we're going back to school, there's a little bit of structure that needs to happen. So just like I'm expecting you to be in bed at a certain time and be up at a certain time, mommy, daddy, auntie, grandma, grandpa also has to be there to get you at a certain time. And so modeling, showing your child how you want them to show up for you. Awesome.
And what to do scenarios,
talk about
making
that,
sure that you
please.
talk to your child about, if I'm not at the bus stop at a certain time and Miss Smith is going to be picking up her child, and I'm going to let Miss Smith know that it is okay to walk you down to the house. And you make sure your bus driver knows that Miss Smith is the backup if you are not at the bus stop, because life happens.
Yes.
And at that age, many of our kids, they don't have cell phones at pre-K and kindergarten yet. Some of them do, but not all of them do. But it is important to walk them through the what if scenarios. And if the parent has not told the child that they were going to be late or whatever, then who can call your mom or your dad or your, family member that you live with to check to see if it's okay for Miss Smith to go ahead and take you down to the house. So we do have bus drivers, they're not allowed to use their cell phones on the school buses. But Miss Smith, if she has a phone, she can call right then and she can say, I'm going to call your mom so they can let you know that whether or not it's okay to go with me today. Those are things that you have to practice with your child and talk through.
Practice. Absolutely. Practice. Thank you guys so much for checking in with us today as we discuss some of the back to school helpful tips around getting our children ready for back to school, getting our teenagers ready for back to school, and also helping our parents navigate the back to school experience. Until next time, take care of yourself so that we can all take care of each other. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Just Me Therapy podcast. If you are seeking further one-on-one diagnoses, interventions, and treatment plans, please consider scheduling an appointment with an individual counselor at Journeys Counseling Center, located in Greensboro, North Carolina. Journeys can be reached at 336-294-1349. The mission of Just Me Therapy podcast is to use authentic conversations to uplift one's mind, body, and soul. The goal of Just Me Therapy is to offer affordable education and insight to individuals who experience financial barriers to accessing individualized behavioral health care services. With that being said, the information, including opinions, advice, and recommendations discussed in this podcast, are intended for individual, informational, and educational purposes only. Such information is not intended to substitute the recommendations of your own licensed therapist or healthcare professional. Although we are licensed behavioral health professionals, we are not your licensed behavioral health professional. As a result, the advice mentioned on this podcast should not replace the recommendations offered by your own qualified health professional.